Here's an experiment for you. Take passionate experts in human resource technology. Invite cross-industry experts from inside and outside HR. Mix in what's happening in people analytics today. Give them the technology to connect. Hit record. Pour their discussions into a beaker. Mix thoroughly. And voila, you get the HR Data Labs podcast, where we explore the impact of data and analytics to your business. We may get passionate and even irreverent, but count on each episode challenging and enhancing your understanding of the way people data can be used to solve real-world problems. Now, here's your host, David Turetsky.
Hello and welcome to the HR Data Labs podcast. I'm your host, David Turetsky. Like always, we have with us our friend and co-host, Dwight Brown. Hey, Dwight.
Hey, David. How are you doing?
I'm very good. And we have with us a very special guest today. We have Neena Kovuru. She was with the city of Fort Worth, Texas, but now she's an independent consultant. Neena, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
It is. Neena, why don't you give us a little bit of overview of your background and how you got to today?
Well, I first, of course, came from India to US to do my master's in computer science. And after I graduated, I started consulting for many different companies. Actually, I started out with United Postal Service, then kind of worked for First Data, Peter Kiewit, Omaha Public Schools, Texas Christian University, and made my journey to city of Fort Worth. So I kind of worked with a multitude of companies in different arenas, as you can see. And everywhere I was, it was always like trying to understand the business needs and how technology can play a role. So I think that's what has helped me to be where I am today.
Excellent. And so what I know from your background is you work for the city of Fort Worth and you help them build an HR business case for investment based on analytics. I know we're going to talk a little bit about today, right?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. So
not to give away the punchline for today, but we will get there. So one fun thing that no one knows about you, Neena, is...
So, I love to study and interpret astrological birth charts. I know it kind of sounds crazy, but wow. I love it.
Well, so you pick up the paper every morning, you read your sign and you go, nah, that's not right.
It's a more complex than that. Yes, I kind of have a software. I enter the information. I study the planets. It's crazy.
Wow. So we're going to put your contact information in the show notes. If anybody wants to get their sign read, Neena's charging a per person rate. It's discounted for the HR Data Labs listeners.
That sounds great. Sounds great.
Just kidding. So today we're going to have a really fun time talking about the role of data in the recruiting world. And I know Neena's got some really cool examples and use cases to talk to about this. So I'm really excited to get started. So let's get started, Neena. The first question is, I know you're really big on being able to utilize technology in work, and you work with the organizations to effectively use data to help them make decisions. But in your opinion, have recruiters been actually using data to their best advantage today?
Hi, this is Stacey Harris.
And this is Terry Zipper, and we're the host of the two podcasts under the HR Huddle.
On Spilling the Tea on HR Tech, we uncover the latest trends, truths, and challenges from Sapient Insight Group's groundbreaking research and our analyst insights, serving up everything you need to know about HR tech with no sugarcoating.
And on HR We Have a Problem, we tackle the toughest workplace challenges head on, offering you expert advice and actionable solutions to help HR leaders thrive in today's fast-changing world. Whether you want the scoop on tech or tools to solve people problems, we've got you covered.
Take a listen and subscribe. If you want to become part of our community, we'd love to see you.
So I don't think that everyone has, at least all the recruiters are truly utilizing the data the way they should, because I feel like recruiters today can analyze like the recruiting channels and they can figure out like where is the top talent coming from, right? They can also figure out looking at the job boards, well, is it worth investing in these data, in these job boards, based on your data? Because data can tell us a story. It can tell us for what job classification you're getting like the best candidates, what location are you recruiting them from? And if you dig deeper, You can even figure out if the candidates you have hired, like from certain job boards, are they staying longer with the company? Are they staying shorter?
Right.
Are they top performers? And, technology, I think, can even assist with conducting employee onboarding surveys and hiring manager surveys. And you now have an insight into the employee's experience. You can make changes to the onboarding experience that can like boost your new hire satisfaction morale, improve your employee retention. So, truly, if you look at the HR analytics dashboards, you can effectively have recruiters, get actionable insights, make actual data-driven decisions to optimize their recruiting process. Even in diversity needs, which, I presented and we discussed it, at the conference that we were recently, because, recruiters can actually look at can use data-driven approach to understand diversity needs of an organization, because you can look at the data all the way from sourcing to attrition. And you can then make improvements to your strategy. How am I going to have this diversity sourcing? How can I keep, the retention in the organization?
But when we get to talking about recruiters themselves, don't we need to retrain them on the process?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We did that. And you have to look in the market and see, well, what are the companies that are doing good training, that are effective, and that can be useful for your organization. Because when I was exploring, I saw there was some training that was specific to recruiters who worked in like medical industry. And there are like specific that are working in government organizations that you can utilize, because you do need to develop a certain type of mindset for recruiters, because they have to be more analytical, right? And they also have to be more proactive. They have to go out there like on LinkedIn and other areas and actually look, what kind of person am I looking for? Who am I sourcing? Who will be a good fit for my organization? So there are a lot of things you have to think about.
So I'm curious, is you bring up something that we've actually talked about on the program. We had Jordan Morrow on to talk about data literacy. And do you find that in trying to get them to understand the data and the analytics side of things, that there's a lot of pushback? Like people are afraid of using the data because they don't understand it?
Absolutely pushback, because people, I think, have gotten so used to doing the same thing over and over again. At least in my experience, what I've noticed is they get the information, they just process the information. They send it to the hiring manager. They say, these are the candidates who had applied. What do you think? Or you make the decision. You are the best guy. You are hiring. You know what you need. But I think that the recruiting function needs to be a little more deeper than that. I mean, we truly depend on recruiters to analyze, our data and say, hey, okay, these are good candidates we're getting from. So even if you look at the hiring manager to make, do the screening and stuff, you still need to do some initial pre-screening to say, are these skills going to be a fit, for this particular job? Is this person going to be a fit for the culture of the organization? And you have to do some work on your end, like meaning when the hiring manager comes back to you next time, you need to think, well, where did I advertise this job last time? Where did I get some good candidates? So a lot of analysis needs to go in, and some work needs to be done by the recruiters. And I don't know why the pushback is if it's a fear of the data, or, we may find something like I also implemented, KPIs, right, for the recruiters, because you can truly, change your recruiter efficiency metrics based on whatever you want it to be. How many people are you interviewing? How many phone screens did you do? You can change it any way you want. But I think recruiters feel like now I'm being judged.
Well, they are
something
actually.
is I'm being upheld to something, right? Because if I don't meet the KPI, maybe I'm not a top performer. So it kind of creates a fear. But I think that it's not really a fear. It's really a way for us to improve it, improve our function. How can we effectively add value to the organization?
But Neena, they are actually going to be judged. So they are correct. The question is it really their responsibility? And so you talked about the different players in the process, right? There's the hiring manager, there's the recruiter, but there is also the HR generalist who plays a role as well. And they should also help both sides understand culture, understand fit, understand short and long-term need. So there really is kind of more players that have to come in and kind of play a part in the whole equation other than just the recruiter. So a lot of the recruiter should or could be based on the pipeline and the health of the pipeline and the health of the requisition. A lot of the other things, whether it's a efficiency of the hire or the performance of the hire, and their onboarding, a lot of that also could fall onto the shoulders of the HR generalist or the hiring manager, to be honest, right?
So I think it depends on the organization, right? In most organizations, they will have the recruiters who are actually doing the functions that you have mentioned, like managing the pipeline. You know, what is the efficiency of the pipeline? In some organizations, like one of the things is they are looking at HR business partners, right? That is something that you're talking about, the function where they are like your people, the liaisons, as you can say, between the HR and the other departments or divisions, and they actually understand, hey, what is the culture? And so they could be an intermediate step that could help both the recruiters and the other department. But there is still a lot riding on the recruiter. You know, there is still a lot that people are depending on the recruiter. And I think that they need to do the due diligence rather than saying, hey, I'm just going to pass it because, hey, I got a business partner. He's got to take care of it. I disagree with that. I kind of feel like recruiters are the backbone of an organization, and it's very important for them to kind of understand, you know, what are the needs? What am I looking for?
Sure.
What pre-screening should I do?
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking subscribe. This podcast is made possible by Salary.com. Now, back to the show.
So, Neena, can you give us a couple examples where the technology has actually failed the recruiters in the recruiting process, and also some other examples of where it's helped?
Yeah, you know, it's funny you say that because I personally feel that technology fails recruiters when software is not effectively configured or programmed to give the right results. Because, you know, I have actually seen recruiting systems like where candidates, they were highly qualified,
right,
but they were eliminated. They were not even considered like a qualified candidate.
Yep.
So it was an interesting situation. And, you know, when I look deeper, what I found is like the pre-screening questions, they were very specific. And the scores which were linked to those questions, they were inappropriately ranked. And so, you know, the system will not allow the recruiter to change the scoring after it has been set up and the candidates have applied. And so the recruiter now they are being forced to go through all the resumes, right, to figure out, well, who is really qualified? So I think it really depends on the recruiter to create the pre-screening questions that can cast like a broader net to capture the qualified candidates. And
Yep. Well, actually, to that point, though, we've actually seen the AI kick out qualified candidates and send that rejection letter so fast that, you know,
But I don't think the AI is there. I don't think AI is, you know, there where we can utilize it completely, you know, because it's still developing. And another example, like I'll give you, you know, that the technology today has not been able to provide is like a fully functional method that completely eliminates unconscious bias, right?
Absolutely.
It doesn't exist. I mean, you have ways to mitigate the bias, like you can do nudging, behavior change. But the key, I think, is for recruiters to adopt like a structural hiring process. You know, that's one way we can at least, you know, make sure that we are doing something to mitigate the unconscious bias.
Can I touch on that bias issue for a second? A lot of times we see not just the process itself, but also go back to the requisition, go back to the job description. The job description, once it gets created, has words in it, especially keywords that people self-select out because they go, this isn't for me. And it's not for me because the wording we use is very biased. And it's not on purpose. Of course, that's why it's unconscious. But it screams it. And the technology is there now to filter out that language, isn't there?
Yes, it is there. The technology is there to filter that out. And there are, you know, like I'm trying to think, there was something else also we were using when, like, you know, the names of individuals, like when people are responding to a job, right, in a resume, a lot of times there's just discrimination based on what your name is reflecting because of who you are or from what location you came from. And there is technology today that says that they can screen it, but it has had its hiccups. And so I don't think it's like completely there, but hopefully in the future we could use that so that people, when hiring managers are hiring, they don't really know the person. They can't really, you know, have a bias based on that. They just look at the skills and the resume and they say, hey, I want to talk to this person.
I know this might sound like an old example, Neena, but there's bias in which newspaper you put the ad in. Whether it's, you know, and again, that sounds very old fashioned. Okay, I've got a lot of gray hair. I'm an old fashioned kind of guy.
Newspaper.
But They have newspaper. They actually still use newspapers to look for jobs. But
Wow.
but which newspaper you place that ad in, again, might be an old statement for a lot of you because you don't use newspapers anymore. But even which place you put, whether it's on ZipRecruiter, Indeed, another one, Monster. Do you guys remember Monster?
Oh, yeah.
I do remember Monster.
Or some new sites like careers.com. Whether you put
Yes.
your requisition on those sites, it really does matter which audience you're actually going to get back. And there's some bias there, right?
Of course. There is bias.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's unfortunate. And we can't solve for all of it.
We cannot.
And I know, Neena, I've interrupted you 3 or 4 times already, so I apologize. But let's talk about the positives, though, and the positive examples of technologies that help recruiters out.
Well, I can give you 2 simple examples. Like, we tried out this timed video screening for candidates, like where they could answer a few questions within an allocated time. And interestingly, we had some candidates who had like great resumes. And when they started answering, they had no clue, even for like basic questions we asked, like in the timed interview. So I actually felt like after using that this was a great pre-screening tool that you could use because, now recruiters can actually focus their time and energy on truly qualified candidates, not who appear on resume, but really understand the topic and talk on that.
Absolutely.
Another one I feel you can be truly data driven is, if you're able to channelize the data that you have in all your HR systems. And we talked about this again, last time when we were at the conference, and basically meaning that you are able to enable the visualization, right? Your entire employee life cycle. And if you can do that, then you can be more strategic and informed, right? In every phase, whether it is you're developing recruiting strategies or you're optimizing your professional development, you can actually empower your leaders, right? Because they can now base decisions on data by leveraging technology.
So one of the things, though, going back to Dwight's question, is education.
Yes.
And being able to make sure that they get the most bang for that buck, right? Making them more literate around not just the analytics, but around the data.
Yes.
Doesn't it need or mean that we need to do more education to be able to get the most out of that?
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, training is essential. First of all, there are some good companies that provide, first of all, basic education, right? To understand on that information, what are the steps that recruiters need to do to be more efficient? Then they need to understand, well, what is the data telling me, right? Understanding, you need to have training classes within an organization, not just for the recruiters, but for everyone, because every area has data. And that's what I mean when we say that, having data for the entire organization, now being able to tell the other divisions or departments and saying, this is what the data is telling me about your area. These are the areas you could improve. And these are the areas where you are doing fine. And maybe you keep doing what you're doing. So even for recruiters, right, they need to understand, well, if this data is telling me this way, then I need to be prepared to recruit people differently or continue recruiting a certain way, asking the same type of questions, or maybe advertising in the same area. So I think it just depends. What are we trying to accomplish? What is our business objective overall? Where is the organization going? And then we have to align all our questions and training in the story that the data is telling us to meet the overall objective.
And I would also go as far as to say that in that process, because when you think of education, there's a defined start and an end that goes with that. But you think about implementation of data and getting people to understand it. It's almost like an organization needs to also have ongoing, I'll call them translators, because let's face it, data is a language, and you always need somebody there that knows the business but knows the data that can also help the recruiters. And so that education ends up being sort of an ongoing process too. And really these are the analysts and the typical structures that you see.
See, that is the reason that your HR team has to work with the HRIS area, right? Because you need someone. You first of all also need someone who has the vision and understanding of the data, who can help everyone understand what is going on. And it never ends, right? Because it's a journey. Because your data is going to keep changing. You're never going to be on the same system. You're never going to have the same objectives. So you grow with the organization and the changes that are coming in the organization. Right. And everyone has to work together to be successful. You can't just depend completely on one area of an organization.
Right.
That's where one of the things that I'm hoping for is that the training helps managers, more so probably than even the recruiters, understand the language and the process and the feedback loop they're getting from the metrics.
Yeah.
So that they can constantly refine their process and refine
Yes.
how they interact with candidates. Because losing that candidate is a really good life lesson, but learning from losing it is the better lesson. And learning for the next time when you get the right candidate and you didn't necessarily see it, but the signals are there. And the feedback loop that you're getting from the entire process gives you those kind of lessons to make sure you don't make that same mistake again.
I agree with you. I mean, they say failures are the stepping stone to success, right? So you learn from your failures and you see something that, you haven't done right. You obviously don't want to make the same mistake again. And you want to put, hey, how can I improve this process? Or how can I improve whatever went wrong, whether it's a system or a process or a thinking, change it.
Right.
Sure. So, Neena, what do you think is the future of recruiting from a technology perspective?
Well, there's a lot going on, but I'll say, I can first of all think like chatbots that are powered by artificial intelligence, they could be programmed to analyze like key terms in resumes, maybe even initiate interactions with candidates, ask them like a predefined set of questions. And, if the algorithms are programmed correctly, I feel like then they can eliminate the bias from the recruitment process, right? Because it all depends on how are the algorithms configured and programmed. And, chatbots, I think, can be an effective tool in the recruiter's toolbox in the future, because I don't feel they're doing everything they're doing today. Because today, if you ask them a question, it almost feels like, I'm getting a predefined answer and stuff. So I feel like there is a lot of improvement, right? A lot of improvement that needs where I actually feel like I'm talking to a person and not feeling like a robot or something is just answering my questions.
Yeah.
So, and I think that it could help recruiters, right? Then they wouldn't have to spend many hours parsing resumes or shortlisting qualified candidates if the chatbot actually worked the way it was, we envision it to work. And, I also think like advanced hiring methods, like analyzing candidates' expressions, thinking patterns, using AI technology, that would be helpful, because now you are actually looking to enhance the quality of hire, right? Because now you're evaluating skills like teamwork, creative thinking, time management, communication skills that we today cannot analyze, really speaking, that way. So,
well, we can when we do assessments, right?
Right.
If you send a candidate through an assessment, you can get that. The problem is that they're expensive.
Yes.
And you can't do it on every single candidate.
You can't. And I also think like the assessments, in some ways, the assessments are so predefined. I mean, sometimes, in discussions with other people, they say, we have done so many, we know how to, kind of fool the system to say, but I feel like with the AI technology, you may be able to ask questions in a different way, that you are not used to. Like, so the candidates have to think and they are answering on the spot, and they're, the critical thinking comes in place. And I feel like the answers could be more, the system could evaluate you in a better way. And, even predictive analytics, that also is something I think like in the future is going to play a major role, because, it can help, right, with streamlining sourcing, screening, and hiring. And, maybe even interpret relevant information so recruiters can actually find patterns, like develop solutions and improve the recruiting strategies. I think that could be something in the future, finding correlations in the data, kind of determine, hey, who's the ideal profile for my organization? So maybe all this we can do using the new technology that will be out there in the future.
If they're integrated into the application and hiring process, even better, right? So
yes,
you're making
absolutely.
a seamless experience.
Yes.
You're thinking about EX, or in this case, I think it's CX, candidate experience.
Yes.
And you're making it so that as they come in, they're not feeling like they're being put in a queue that has to go through a robot before they actually get to talk to a human. That you're training the candidate and you're training the system and you're training the process in here's how we're going to make sure that the process not only is enjoyable to the end user, who in this case is the candidate, but also that they're going to learn more about themselves. You're going to learn more about them in the fit, and you're going to be able to have more appropriate conversations about why they don't fit your organization, whether it's culture or skills or other things, instead of just having them get I'm sorry, we love your resume. It's got lots of great experience on it, but we're going to go toward other other candidates.
I agree.
Why didn't you like me? What was wrong about me? What's wrong with my experience? I'm a master at this. Why didn't you hire me? Because all that does is tarnish your brand and your reputation.
And I agree with you, David. I think that the process also needs to be like engaging, right? When you are actually screening a candidate, it shouldn't be this monotonous process we go through today. It needs to be an engaging process where you are actually trying to understand the person, just like you said, right? And they should feel like, okay, they're trying to get to know me to see whether I'm a good fit. And, the organization appreciates what I have or how I can add value.
Exactly.
I think that is the key, using technology to actually make get all your pre-screening done, and then you bring them in if you want to for an in-person interview.
Right. Because for those recruiters who don't remember, I'll just share something with you. At that point, the person has filled out an online resume. They filled out the online application form. They may have actually had to retype their resume, or they uploaded it and they had to fix it. They had gone through some pre-screening questions. Then they're probably put in a queue once all of their part for that first application is done. They may get an email back saying, oh, we've chosen you to go through a second round. Now take this assessment. They think they may have done great on the assessment, but actually they did terribly on the assessment. And then they get an automatic response telling, thank you so much for spending all that time with us. We've chosen to go in a different direction. So recruiters, think about EX, employer CX, candidate experience, and think about what you're asking them to do. And are there places within that where you can make it a better experience for them and make something where they can learn about themselves and learn about why they didn't get chosen.
Yeah, no, I think communication is the key. And I would agree with you. There are many organizations you will never hear back, or you are always left in one status and you don't know almost till the end when you finally get that automated rejection letter. And you are like hanging in the space, and it's like, what happened to me?
Right.
And this happens.
Well, you either spent 5 minutes waiting, or you spent 50 days waiting and finally get an answer back months later. Yeah.
I have seen this. There are many months go by and you never hear back. And it's like, well, where did it go? Is it in La La Land? Or, what happened to it? And so I think that's so important, because it leaves a sour taste in your mouth, and you really need, because you're spoiling the brand of the company also, right? By doing that. Because I feel, if somebody were to ask me, this happened to me, I'll say, I don't think they know how to recruit, because they never get back to you. They don't have, the proper etiquette, let's say, just how to deal with a candidate. And so it's affecting the image of the company. So the brand is so important. We all carry that responsibility.
Right. Is it ghosting or is it gaslighting? I'm not sure which one it is at that point.
I have no idea. Maybe ghosting. They don't talk to you.
Yeah, it is.
It's a toss-up.
To your point, you just want to know one way or another. You want to know.
Yeah.
Should I keep looking or not? Or is there a better job for me at that employer? After 50 days, I don't care.
Yeah, and a lot of times I've seen in organizations, the recruiters say, I'm handling too much. I have too many requisitions, too many candidates. I think that's where they need to look to see, well, what is the right optimal number to make sure that the candidates do not feel that they don't have a good experience, right? So ensure that you giving that positive message. So, make sure you fix your recruiting area. Don't overload your recruiters.
Wise words.
Yeah. And there's so many opportunities to use the data to do that.
Absolutely.
And we miss the boat so often with it, though.
This is one area of an organization, especially the HR organization, that is flush with data.
It is. And we can make so many improvements just by looking. Simple, low-hanging fruits are out there, right? If you really want to make some changes, you can make simple changes and they can be still very effective.
Absolutely. So, Neena, we've talked a lot about the role of data in the world of recruiting. We've talked about how companies can effectively use data and can train all the different participants in the process. We've talked about a few of the examples of failures as well as positive technologies in the recruiting world. We've also talked about potential future and what could be in the world of recruiting. Anything else you wanted to cover before we close?
No, I think we were focusing more on recruiting today, so I think that's cool.
Awesome. Neena, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely pleasure for us. Dwight, thank you as always.
Thank you for being here with me. And thank you, Neena, for joining us for this.
Thank you.
And thank you all for listening. Take care. Stay safe.
That was the HR Data Labs podcast. If you liked the episode, please subscribe. And if you know anyone that might like to hear it, please send it their way. Thank you for joining us this week, and stay tuned for our next episode. Stay safe.